Everyone, welcome to the Big Man's Cabana. I'm your host, Matthew J. Lepore, and I'm on again with Roman Mustaccio. Now, I did have to stop you and I because we were getting into the the articles of benching, and dude, you guys, you, Zach, Kyle, all of you, you're just smart. Like,
I'm flattered you put me in the same class as those two. I love those guys.
well, it's funny when it was kind of sad today. I know you came back over so we could still do one. We talked about having you on it again anyways, but Kyle was dealing with some stuff, so he'll be on either next week or whenever we figure it out. So you'll see a trio soon.
I would love to hop on with Kyle because I watched the episode with him, and I like every now and then it was like, oh well, I was talking to Rowan about this once, and I was like, I would love to sit down with both of you and shoot shit. One, because I haven't seen Kyle in forever. He's my friend. But I just thought it would be fun to kind of have like a round table.
Dude, it was so funny. It was like I was like saying things in my head, and I'm like, I remember Roman saying that. And the next thing I'd be like, so Roman was saying this.
I think at one point you were like, I don't want to speak for him, and I was like, all right, I need to get on there and speak for myself in that case.
wait, what did I say?
I forget the context, but one of you was like, Roman had this thought about this, and I don't want to speak for him, but like this, that, and the other. And I was like, all right, I agree with you, but I would love to elaborate if I'm coming up anyway.
No, that's cool, and it works out, but it's just like, so I was saying before is like when Zach switched my bench, Zach Santangelo, shout out, it was such a massive learning curve because like I've done the reverse grip before. I mean, it was just like grab it, bring it down, and you would just press. It would just take some miles off my shoulders, everything like that. But you do it as like a main lift now. Like that's how you bench.
Yeah. I mean, because I compete in gear, so my raw bench, like I still see value in training raw because I lift in a poly shirt, and I know a lot of the band shirt guys they don't see the same value in it. But two things: one, I'm not in a band shirt yet, and two, just being younger necessitating more base building than a lot of more tenured lifters. But like if I'm training my bench raw, I'm doing a reverse grip at this point. Sure. I'm not really doing it overhand. The one exception is like incline. And the shirt, it's just too aggressive to do reverse grip. It's just too much on your palms. Yeah. But actually, it's funny. I had a lot of problems with reverse grip when I first started trying to do it. Obviously, the first person I saw do it that made me want to try was Jimmy. And then not long after trying it and eating shit, like repeatedly, I actually went out to a meet to help handle him. It was a single ply meet he did a while ago. And I was like, Jimmy, like, I feel like I can bench a lot reverse grip, but I can't hold the bar. Like, what am I doing wrong? And I was doing exactly what you think of when you hear reverse grip. I was grabbing the bar underhand.
Oh no, right? I was always between my fingers.
Good. Only that's because exactly what to do.
So only because I saw your videos. That's the only. Okay, no bullshit. That is the only reason I knew how to reverse grip because I would watch like your stuff.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Sorry.
No. He would tell me, he would be like, yeah, I do all my raw work reverse grip. I'm like, all right, well this dude's like the best bencher in the world. It's like there's something to it. And he told me why, and he was like, less mileage on the shoulders. You can tuck a little harder. You won't flare at all. More tricep, and so it makes sense. But I just kept running into like I can't hold more than 315 underhand. And then he showed me the between your trigger and middle finger, and that blew my mind. I was like, oh, this makes so much sense. This is easy now. I can hold on anything.
So would you say that Death Wish is turning into like a subcontract of like a West Side? Or because I need you to understand how I see it, right? So like when I go to like Colmar or when I go to McMillan or like my home gym, like the gym, the way that I see Death Wish, right, is like a West Side.
Well, it's a crew.
Yeah,
like, that's the difference. Like there's a difference between joining a gym and joining a crew. And I would say now, not in a negative way, that we're closer to a gym, but after the move and kind of going half and half with 610 Fitness. In Delco, like since the move, it's less private.
Yeah.
But it's not really a bad thing at all. Zach's a good dude. He runs classes. It's good to have like other perspectives in the gym. You're not just kind of in the mirror circle of powerlifting. So the move went really well. We are looking to expand a little, like just kind of get some more space, spread our wings a little bit, bring some more of our equipment back. But moving off without a hitch. We went over. It is definitely a much better place to be in. I love having toilet paper and soap in the bathrooms again, and lights not being out. So
Wait, did you not have toilet paper in?
the old spot we were at was a real shithole.
Really? Yeah,
not
you're
really
saying.
gonna be too slanderous, but very
Just
frequently.
pull it just a little bit closer.
Huh?
Pull
Oh
it-
yeah.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good.
Yeah. Beforehand, we were at a spot that very frequently did not have toilet paper, did not have soap in the bathrooms. The toilets were clogged. The sinks were full of like murky water. There were rats, mold, whole 9 yards. And the only pro to that space, in my opinion, was we had a key, right? Like we had our own room.
Yeah.
No one could go in there and fuck with us. And we don't have that now, but it's not really a problem because it still isn't like a public gym. Like
Yeah.
610, they run classes and they have
Yeah.
open gyms, but people aren't fucking with our stuff. Like there is a mutual respect, and
Yeah.
everyone there is like respectful of gym equipment. So
So
it's
is
not
that
a problem.
is that a fear for later on?
What do you mean?
So okay, so for example, at the gym, right?
Yeah.
Prime example. The other day, it's summertime. Kids coming back.
Yeah.
They're what's it called? Rack pulling with a brand new, and I mean less than a month. Like the knurling is fresh, like it'll rip the callus off your skin.
Oh, jeez.
And rack pulling with a deadlift bar from like a Texas deadlift bar.
Hurts my heart.
And, I was irate. I have never in my life ever walked over to people and be like, stop. Usually I'll just like swallow my pride and just not say anything unless they're gonna hurt themselves.
But
I was like, dude,
that's a threat to equipment.
Yeah, I was like, dude. Well, I asked them like, how much do you think this costs?
They have no idea.
Like, this is not a UMax bar.
Especially kids. Like they're not gonna know.
But anyways, but what I'm saying is like, we have like a crew, but it's more of a public gym. So are you worried about people doing things like that, where you have this $800 Texas bar, Kabuki bar, and now it's like they can use it, but you're worried it's gonna get broken?
So initially, like when we had talked about this move to this space, like I was nervous. I was like, we've got Sportcraft competition bars, we've got all sorts of weird stuff. Like, are people going to be fucking with this? And it was really the only reason I had that fear is because like I wasn't familiar with how 610 operated, and I didn't know Zach. Like now that I've met him and I see how they operate, like when we train there as a crew, classes are running alongside us the whole time. Like it's not a fear at all in my eyes. Like if something changes and it becomes like an LA Fitness, which would literally never happen, then yes, I would be scared again. But as it stands now, as the current state of things, like it is more than fine. Like everyone has a mutual respect for each other's equipment and what everyone else is doing. So it is not a worry at all. But speaking of people deadlifting with or rack pulling with
don't break
deadlift
my heart.
bars,
Don't break
I'm not
my
gonna break your
heart.
heart. I'm actually gonna do the opposite. Our crew, our rack pull bar, because I feel like every gym has like quote unquote rack pull bars.
Yeah,
like
we
beater
have
bars.
one now.
Usually it's like a bent bar, like
That's
a
what
deadlift
it
bar
is,
that's
yeah.
bent. Ours is we have a particularly unforgiving bar. It is actually, you know what? You know the old York power bars?
Yeah.
Jim and Tan?
Yeah.
It's like one of those. It's a little bent. Like not enough that you would notice, but enough that it'll throw you off if you don't
I
pull
thought
from
you
the
were
right
gonna say
position.
like a Mastodon bar. That's what I thought you were
No,
gonna say.
God, no. I have never felt a bar with so little flex in my life because not only is it like those power bars, it doesn't have center knurling. So it's
The Mastodon
even,
bars? Or?
No,
this
our
one.
rack pull bar.
Got it.
It is like, it's bare steel. It's like totally browned out. The knurling is totally gone. It doesn't have center knurling. So it's even stiffer. And the sleeves like don't even really rotate anymore. It is just the most punishing bar to rack pull from. Like, I understand the point of a rack pull is like you're trying to target a specific mini max.
Yeah.
And that's a very valid use case of a stiff bar. But like this bar does not bend, dude. And like I've seen some of our training partners pull against like quadded monsters with like 6 plates in the bar, and it is just stiff as a board. I hate to say it, but they don't make them like they used to. I really don't get how this bar is just so straight all the time. It just holds position. So I had to pull. It was fresh in my head because I had to pull with it on Sunday, and I was just hating every second of it. But
dude, that sucks. I would not like that at one bit because I thought. So the next comp we have, or I'm gonna go back to Beer Muscles, and it was a stiff bar. It was a West Side Rogue stiff bar. That's what they were using as well as what it says.
familiar with this.
And I wasn't familiar with the bar, so it said it was like a stiffish bar.
Yeah.
So what did I grab? I grabbed the a Texas squat bar. I was gonna use the Macedon, but I was like, I don't feel like
Yeah,
that.
that's tough.
And that sucked. That
Yeah.
sucked so much.
Funny enough, my college gym actually has Westside Power Bars. I have no idea how they got there, and now like the Drexel Powerlifting Club, like they've bought like an Ohio Power Bar for the team because most of them compete in the USAPL. That's the bar they compete on. But before that, like I guess a few years ago, at some point, whatever leaving class of Drexel Powerlifting there was bought like 4 Westside Power Bars, and they're great bars. I see them floating around the gym every now and then. I'm like, none of you realize how cool this is that we have these. Like, now they're beat to shit. They're like totally, you know, they're a few years old. They're at a college gym. They're not going to last very long. But yeah, every time I pull with that rack pull bar, I just think of you talking about like how unforgiving the axle bar is, and I'm like, this is that, but it's just thinner. Like it's just it's bar size, but it does not bend at all. You get no whip from it.
That axle bar. Have you ever deadlifted with an axle bar?
I have, not like seriously, but it's tough.
Bro, let me tell you something. So like if you give me like a Texas bar, I can get around like 720 or whatever it is. But dude, let me tell you, I think we were working up to we were doing I think it was like 80% or 78% for 3. So you're gonna go up like 3 reps, go up, 3 reps, go up, 3 reps, go up, and 620. Let me tell you, I felt every second of it. Every second of it.
Every one of those pounds, huh?
And it was so rough where I think I hitched the last one so bad.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I can't. I physically cannot lift anything more.
I remember when I first jumped ship from the USAPL to the USPA, and the USAPL is really the only fed that when you compete in the deadlift and powerlifting, you do it on a stiff bar, and every other fed uses a deadlift bar, obviously.
Yeah.
It makes fucking sense. But the USAPL dogma, like they talk so much about the deadlift bar, like it puts like 100 pounds on your deadlift, like none of them realize that was a skill. Like pulling slack is a skill that you have to develop. And because of that, and because of the crowd that I was in when I went over, they're like, you're going to pull so much more. And I was like, oh, this is going to be like an easy extra few pounds of my deadlift. And it's like, you have to learn how to use that. And for a long time, I probably could have pulled more on a stiff bar than a deadlift bar, just because the positioning changes so much.
Well, people don't realize too is you always hear that you pull the slack.
Yeah.
And you'll see people yank it, but then they just release it.
Yeah.
I'm like, you wasted energy and did nothing
and
with it.
To be fair, it is hard to master that technique, and I still suck at it sometimes, just like finding my groove, finding my leverages. But like I see the same. I see a lot of people do all this effort to get tight, and they from the top they get all the slack out of the bar, and they just let it go, and they get down to the floor, and it's like you just wasted all of that. And you've ruined your positioning, you've destroyed it. But it's tough, man. If you're approaching pulling a deadlift bar for the first time, know that it is a skill, and also it really doesn't make that much of a difference until you're above 800 pounds. Yeah, which
I would agree.
I am not.
Yeah.
So,
dude, and what's also wild too is like I always see people what is it? They someone was squatting with it. He got around like 405 pounds, and I'm like, does he not like feel that?
Yeah.
Like I know I would feel
terrible that feels.
And I'm like, and I asked him, I was like, yo, do you feel the difference of that bar? And he's like, no, because he goes, well, I see you and I'll go Adam, Cody and I were just staring at the guy because we're trying to we're like that's the
just trying to understand that thought.
And I just had to ask him, I'm like, listen, do you know that's like a deadlift bar? And he's like, really? I didn't notice. And I'm like,
people don't even know what that is, dude.
It blows my mind.
Especially when you're at like, I love the gym, but like the fact of the matter is like it is a gym that anyone can walk into. There's no like vetting process for that, right? Yeah. Which is just that's how that gym is structured, which is fine, and it's a great gym. But like you will end up having people like that who have no idea, and it does not matter how many signs poor Jim and Amy put up talking about like this bar's for this bar's for this. People just don't pay attention. I just don't get how you would. There's bars with center knurling, and you just pick the one that doesn't have it to squat to put on your back.
It blows my mind. Yeah, and like people will come over, and I'm like, dude, like, are you not like afraid of that slipping off your back? I should show him the video. There's this it's a fucked up video. I can only watch it once because I accidentally saw it. I can't watch lifting videos like that.
Yeah.
But this guy was squatting, and he's like here, and the bar comes back, and he snaps both his wrists.
Ugh. That's disgusting. I know exactly what you're talking about too. It comes from a lot of people who, when they squat, they have their hands really, really close to their shoulders, and they, instead of like actually creating upper back tension, they pull their elbows forward which ironically enough kind of destroys the shelf in your upper back.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Not like destroys it like from an injury perspective, but like it ruins any shelf you've built with your traps. Is like pulling your elbows too far forward.
Yeah.
But if you just keep torquing like this and you have your hands stuck against a static object, like there is going to be a weak link. You're either going to tear one of a few muscles, or you're going to snap your arms in half.
Oh my god.
If you succeed in getting your elbows like in front of your body, like I don't understand. I just, even thinking about that, like I'm like, oh, I just strained like everything in my shoulders.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how people do it.
Oh, it infuriates me because it's sometimes it's like, and I get it. Like I was there too, and it's like, well, why don't you just like ask someone? And then it was funny because it is intimidating. And you said something that a while ago, and I don't remember if you know, but this is like stuck with me like weeks. We did like a podcast like 2 months ago, and it was closed mouths don't get fed. You see what I'm saying?
So you know what's funny is Zach came in one day and he's like, "You gotta stop giving away all my fucking sayings, man." He's like, "You ruined that one for me." Matt's telling me, "Oh, Roman said you said this, and this," and he's like, "You gotta shut up, dude." He's like, "Stop stealing my thunder."
I outed you right out.
You did
because it was funny because I think was it 2 weeks? It was like 2 weeks after. I get on like a Sunday, and I'm like, "Yo, Zach," and he's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Dude, so like, what's with these one-liners, man?" He goes, "I got plenty of them. What can I say?" and I'm cracking up, and Zach's like, he's like, "Well, what'd you hear?" I'm like, "Well, Roman said on a podcast, one of like 11,000 people. Well, I don't know about if there was that many at that point, but he was like, "Well, what was it?" I'm like, "Closed mouths don't get fed." He goes, "Oh my god."
Yeah.
There's plenty more for where that came from, and I'm like, all right.
I give him all credit where it's due. I got so many one-liners from that guy, and especially like now that I've like got him in my grasp, he's like training with me almost every Thursday now. It is just a constant stream of those. I relish in them. I really do. They're so
great.
funny,
dude. He's amazing, and it's great. I didn't even mean for him to like take me under his wing because he asked me a while ago, like, yo, like, well, what do you think about this? Like, would you ever try something like this? Send me like a video on Instagram, and then it was just Sam. I think I was struggling to get 4 reps at 435, just like my old bro bench is what he called it. And he's like, "Well, come on outside, we'll help you out." I'm like, "All right."
Yeah.
And Zach goes, "You're done." I was like, "Oh, fuck." Dude,
that's not like a closed mouths don't get fed moment, but that's like one of the moments with Zach is like he's very willing to help, but only if you're willing to listen.
Yeah.
And like that was how he took me under his wing for a while before I like moved to college and moved to Death Wish. And that was not a slight to him at all. It was just like I had to go to college. Like I had to move a little. But I'm glad I kept in touch with him because especially now having him back on Thursdays, like just the little things, the little tweaks, the little cues, just to be able to pick his brain, and especially when we get to accessory work, because a lot of the brief stuff, like it feels weird to say, but like he's kind of learning from me because the gear that he was
you're great to learn from.
Thank you, but it's just his tenure is so incredible. It just sounds wrong to say, but like the gear he was wearing was not the gear that we're putting him in now. Like what we have in our gear bin is much more aggressive than anything they had back when he was interning at Westside. So he kind of like comes because the people that coach him down at 50 Barbell, they want him to kind of get into briefs and maybe try a shirt on at some point. And he's like, well, if I'm going to test the waters anywhere, I got a group of people down here who know what they're doing. Like, let me go there. And then when we get to
you guys are valid. You guys are valid.
Yeah, and that's why I gravitated to him because I wanted to learn too. And then we finish squat and we get to accessory work, and then he kind of takes the reins from there. And it's reciprocity. We learn from each other the whole time. It's awesome.
I wish I could like reciprocate in some facet, but I feel like all I'm doing is he goes, "Try this," all right. And, and I think I was like the one day I was like sweating because my Sundays are long. I'll get there at like 9 or 9:30, and then I'll do my bench session, and then I go right to strongman. And they're like, "Why are you dripping?" I'm like, "Fucking Zach." Yeah. I'm just dripping in sweat. He goes, "You know you can say no," and I'm like, "No, it's good to learn, but dude, it's
tough." Yeah. But what you said, I actually struggled with that for a while, like wanting to give back more than maybe at any certain time. Like when I first came to Death Wish, like I was definitely under the mentality, like I always heard Louis say like it's not about what Westside can do for you, it's what you can do for Westside. And I kind of came to Death Wish with that mentality. I was like, well, what can I bring to the table? Like where can I help? What knowledge can I impart on anyone else? But like at some point you got to realize like it's not that nobody wants to learn anything new, particularly like from you. It's
Yeah.
just that like you've got to ascend a little higher before you're able to give back. But
Yeah.
where it came hard was like I always felt like I wasn't giving enough. So I would always try to give things that maybe weren't always like 100% like the right way to say something or the right cue to use.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know, nobody was slighting me for not being able to give back more. They were like, "You're here to learn. You're
Yeah.
young. We're fostering you in this journey so that one day when you pick up on all these things,
You'll be
then
able
you
to
can bring new
teach.
information to the table." And then
Yeah.
I'd like to think I've like partially gotten to that point. Still bottom of the totem pole
Dude, it's
in
just
my eyes, but
it's so funny how you like. Maybe I'm the same way with certain things, but like I feel like the way. Okay, don't take this the wrong way and like any facet, right? But the way I view you and like your bench is like you're like here above like all the other people that I know, and I'm just like sitting down. I feel like every time we talk about like a lift, I'm learning something new, and I'm just like,
that makes me happy because like I love to teach. Like
yeah.
I not like I like to soapbox or anything, but like the
No, I
reason
wouldn't say you soapbox.
that I like to bench so much and I have like such a strong drive specifically to bench more is because I always hated having like a shitty bench.
Mhm.
Because like in high school when I started lifting, like the first thing that like every douchebag was like, "Oh, well,
What do you
what do you
bench?
bench? What do you bench?"
Mhm.
And I was always like, "Well, my bench kind of sucks," and like I was pretty small. And then once I was like, "I'm fucking sick of this. Like I want a big fucking bench. I want my bench to be like my best lift." And it always like it was always kind of funny to me because like I feel like I have kind of shorter arms. I should be able to bench. And then once I
Mhm.
like unlocked stuff, I was like jumping up at the town square, like, "Hey, I figured some stuff out. Like everyone, like I
Yeah.
want to share it
Yeah.
with you guys. Like
Yeah.
let's," because I love doing that. Like the only thing that like comes to comparison of me hitting a bench PR for myself is like if I tell someone something and they bench more. Like I
Mhm.
love that. It's so satisfying.
Yeah.
Or really for any lift at this point, but like bench specifically, I have that kind of intrinsic motivation to get because like it's like making younger Roman proud of where he ended up,
That's
And I'm
awesome.
sure we all have like a few little things like
Yeah.
that, but like bench press is just what that was for me.
That's awesome. No, it's cool because like there's so much people can learn just from like not even just like your bench, like your deadlift, or like if they
Yeah.
wanted to get into gear. But it's interesting that you say that because like people go, oh yeah, well if I had a bench shirt on, if I had the what is it the slingshot, dude, I'll
Yeah.
bench you. I'm like, oh dog, there's so much that goes into it, like because like
No one gets it.
yeah, no one gets it, and it is funny to see because like and I see it all the time, like okay, look, Jimmy Cole, right, prime example, one of the best benches in the
goat.
entire world, can do ridiculous amounts of weight raw, but people will see like that 1300 in a shirt.
Like, what can you do raw?
And it's like, yeah, but then it's like, well, then you go to the comment section,
Yeah.
and it's like people who know what they're talking about. Yo, that's awesome, like yada yada yada. So obviously, you have to be an impressive bencher in general. But then it's like, yo, bro, take the shirt off.
Yeah, they don't get
Yo,
it.
bro, do that without the shirt. And I'm like, what?
I think there's like a gap in perspective almost. Like people who've only ever lifted raw view gear as like cheating.
Yeah.
But I don't know why I gained this perspective. Maybe it was just like getting into conjugate style training early and like taking the liking to like the West Side style and how hardcore it was and how gritty powerlifting was. But like I always viewed multiply as like the final frontier.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is like the exploration of what the body's capable of.
How
the
much you
absolute
can
maximum.
put in the air, yeah.
Yeah, like this is like it does not get better than this. No one's moving more weight than the people that are in this division, right?
What was that? What's your I thought I know so much about your Instagram page. It's so embarrassing that I'm fanboying over it. But what is it? They tried to bury multiply, but they didn't bury it deep enough. Was that right?
When they killed multiply, they didn't bury it deep
Yes,
enough.
that's what it was.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Yeah.
We did a run of Death Wish shirts a long time ago, and we put that on the back of them. And I remember Ralph text me. He's like, "Did you make that up?" And I'm like, "I feel like I heard it somewhere." And he's like, "I'm gonna put that on the back of a shirt, but like I don't want to get it. I don't want to like step on anyone's like toes with copyright." We looked forever. We couldn't find it anywhere. And I think like when the WPO first came back, they called it like From the Ashes, and they had a really sick line of T-shirts. And I think like I in my head like put that together with something else I heard somewhere else, and like thought that was like a saying. And it was funny. Do you know who Chad Ikes is?
I can't say it.
He's a really, really great multiply lifter, team lead FTS. Really interesting story. A lot of stuff to do with his sleep or lack thereof, like staying up for multiple days at a time, crazy stuff.
Oh.
But he DM'd me out of nowhere, and he was like, "Dude, I love your bio. I think that's so sick." And I was like starstruck. I was like, "Holy shit, you're Chad Ikes, dude!" I was like, "You're the fucking man."
Yeah.
He's got After this, you got to look up some of his squat videos.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
a lunatic. Getting under a squat bar was real cool. But it was funny. I like that saying.
It is great. I mean, you can kind of use it like for anything. It's like they try to kill. Dude, that was from something.
That's what I'm saying.
No,
it has to have been
it
from
wasn't.
something.
It wasn't multiply. It was. They when they tried to kill, they didn't bury it deep enough. You know what I'm saying?
Like I might have added multiply to that.
Yeah.
Like, but that format of saying has to be from somewhere.
Dude,
there's no way I made that up. I'm convinced. There's no way.
I'm giving you credit, but I'm gonna find it.
I don't want to take credit because I swear I heard it somewhere else.
Dude,
and I was trying to. I looked for hours.
Was it when they tried to kill metal? What was it?
Maybe it could have been a music genre. Like when they tried to kill hardcore, they didn't bury it deep enough.
There was something.
The only thing I can think of that's similar is like the blank train is coming, get with it or get ran over.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that one I hear a lot,
Yeah.
right? And me and my friends jokingly say that to each other, like when we're going through prep and whatnot. But like, I must have conflated like two sayings.
This is
I
good for you.
swear I heard it somewhere, dude. I really do. But if I made it up, I made it up. I don't know.
When they, no, because it's gonna bother me. I'm not gonna stress over it.
It's bothered me for like 3 years at this point. Trust me, because once it got brought to my attention that it's not from somewhere else, I'm like, hold on, this is like a Mandela effect thing. Like this is,
Dude. That's so. Speaking of Mandela effect, not to like totally switch gears, but there's this guy on TikTok where he has like a safe.
Yeah.
And he'll open it up, and it's called like the Mandela safe. And you know, like how like there was something like the Fruit of the Loom.
Yeah,
doesn't have the cornucopia.
That's my favorite one, the cornucopia.
He found one.
Really?
Yes. I don't know if I
am. To send me that later.
I will find it later. It's I'll send you the account and I'll try to put it up on the not the green screen. It's an actual screen. Spent so much
giant flat screen.
Giant flat screen that's falling out of the thing without the. Anyways, but. Where was I? Oh, yeah, I'll send you the account because like there's a whole bunch of stuff. It was the Fruit of the Loom was the one that stuck in my brain.
Me too.
And then
Berenstein Bears.
Berenstein,
yeah. My dad
Berenstein?
was freaked out about that one. The Berens, I think it's Berenstain Bears. Like
oh
Stain.
yeah.
But that one, like, the Fruit of the Loom one's interesting because that's the only one that's really like odd. Like a cornucopia is not a common thing, right? And like Berenstein would be a common spelling, like a common name suffix would be EIN. So stain to steen, I could see how someone would mix that up. And like the other things are little, but like the cornucopia and the Fruit of the Loom logo, that's a weird one because it's not even a word that most people know, and a lot of people cite knowing what a cornucopia is from their underwear. Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say from the Hunger Games.
Oh, well, that too.
Okay,
but before the Hunger Games was like popular, a lot of people would be like, "Oh, that's the thing on the Fruit of the Loom logo."
On the underwear.
Like that's what they would point to.
Well, I remember specifically when that happened. I think someone sent me like an Instagram reel, or I guess it was a video that wasn't real yet, and it was like, "Yo, bro, there was never a cornucopia," and I was like.
What does this mean?
And you should understand, like it pops up on my phone. I was on like a phone call or something stupid, and I'm like, "What?" It might have been Geo. I don't know if you remember Geo. It might have been Geo. And I'm sitting there. I'm like, what? And I'm like, wait. And I'm like, and I need you to understand. I was still here at the time. I ran upstairs looking for underwear. And I'm like, I can't. Dude, it was insane. But
that was the first thing I did too. Like, because when I heard about that, I think I still had a few pairs of Fruit of the Loom underwear, and I was like. You're joking. Like this is that's a real mind fuck.
Yeah.
That Mandela effect one.
There was another one.
That's like the greatest evidence that I think any of us have for like the parallel universes theory is that there's a universe out there exactly like this one, but the Fruit of the Loom logo has a cornucopia in it.
Well, there's this this theory that in 2012 the world did end.
I heard that.
But okay, so you know where I'm at.
It was like a rift in the timeline.
Yes, it was a rift, and we trickled and came into a separate timeline, but then we took it over. That's how it was. It just popped in. So that's why we're seeing differentials. There was another one. It was like Oh my god, it's gonna bother me. But there was a whole bunch of them, and it was like, well, this is like the first effect. Well, hey, you remember this date? Never happened. Or it's
Yeah.
like, yeah,
You want to hear a really crazy? Because we're derailing a little bit before we before we get back on track of any semblance of structured conversation. One of my favorite conspiracy theories was brought to me by one of my buddies from the Midwest, Ian Decker, and he told me that his friend had told him, you know, psilocybin mushrooms.
yeah.
It's like magic mushrooms. They have no ancestry. Like we have no real idea of how they got here. So what he said was, do you know the like the stoned ape theory?
No.
Like that religion came from ancient civilizations, eating mushrooms, hallucinating together.
Oh, I actually had not heard that. No.
Okay, well, there's a theory that like a lot of religion came from different cultures eating mushrooms, and they would hallucinate together. They would like see mythical figures, and that was how they got the concept for different
Mythology and
beings
things
and
like
gods
that.
and
Okay.
whatnot. That's also why they always had like rain dances, because not only did it bring food, it brought mushrooms up. But the theory that my friend's friend had was that, you know, there's no ancestry to the psilocybin mushroom, so they're business cards left by God. Like, if you find me, eat me, and I will take you to me. Like, that's the theory that his buddy had, and I was like, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard, and I love it. Like, I love that theory, because how
Dude,
else?
I actually have goosebumps right now. Did you see this?
But isn't that like a mind-blowing one? Like, that
That's
makes so much sense if you think about, like, I don't know how I don't actually know the ancestry of the psilocybin mushroom. I am taking it at face value that there's no ancestral lineage to it, no
Yeah.
evolutionary lineage to it. And I'm not pretending that I'm like an expert on psychedelics or anything, but like all that being true, like it makes a lot of fucking sense is all I'm saying. Like
Dude,
that's pretty crazy, ain't it?
I wish oh my god, not Zach. Wish Kyle was here because when him and I
He
did a
loves that
podcast,
shit.
he loves
He
and
does,
so do
yeah.
I. Like that's all
I talk to Kyle about that shit all the time.
dude,
We
because
always see each other 'cause we
I
like this
texted
stuff.
him at like 1 a.m. one night because I saw Wade from I don't know if you know Wade. I can't remember his last name, but he lives at the gym. He sent me like a
Rings a
TikTok
bell.
or like an Instagram reel. And it put me down this rabbit hole, and I texted him like,
Yeah.
"Yo, remember when you want to do a conspiracy
Yeah.
theory? Let's try this." And oh my god,
Kyle does love that shit. I always get like videos from him on Instagram at like
Mhm.
random intervals. It's
yep.
like, just mind-blowing stuff. But yeah, I love the like mushrooms being business
That's so
cards for
cool.
God. I think that's so cool.
Eat them, come find me, and I'll.
Yeah, eat them, and I'll show you who I am. Like, it blows my mind. But anyways, bench press.
Holy sorry, I don't. We derailed, dude.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh god.
But yeah,
But yeah, so have you ever eaten a mushroom on a bench press?
no, I've never done any psychedelics, dude. I'm a very boring person outside of the gym.
That's right. I'm
Unfortunately.
scared to take psychedelics.
That's the only class of drug that I'm really curious about.
So am
But,
I.
like-
I won't do.
Here's the real factor, right? Like, I'm an adult. I live on my own. Realistic if I wanted to. Hearing from my friends how long those trips are, like I don't have 16 hours to put aside. Like that's not.
No.
I have too much shit going on.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, ultimately, I'm scared of any negative effects that would be
So
previously
am I.
unforeseen. I don't really ever see myself actually doing them, but like, it's always a fun thought. But it's like, I can't set aside 16 hours.
Not even that, dude. 'Cause
Like-
it's like they say when you come down, like so. That was another reason why I
like
didn't
the
do it.
serotonin depletion.
So
yeah.
like, what I was worried about was they're like, oh, it's like 12 hours, whatever it is, and I'm like, I gotta be up at like
dude,
6.
I have a job.
Yeah,
I train. Like I do shit. Like
yeah.
I don't get it.
I'm also the biggest factor I haven't done them though, is because I'm afraid that I'm gonna have a really bad trip.
I think
and I'll end up
everyone's
like
afraid of
killing
that.
myself.
Yeah.
That's what I'm worried about.
Some of my buddies in college have done it, and they said like that is a fear that everyone has, but like you just kind of get over it. And I was like, I'll take your word for it. Not really gonna take that risk for myself.
Yeah, no,
Sorry.
I'm okay.
It's
Thank you.
like, that's a bit of a high ticket risk there.
Oh god.
But it's the time thing blows my mind. I'm like, where do you find 16 hours to just hallucinate? Like where does that
And
fit
what do
into
you
your schedule?
do?
I don't know. I've never gotten an answer. They're just like, well, like, I see shit. And I'm like, again, like what does
Dude,
that mean?
I don't think I could sit down for 12 hours and not do, or 16 hours and not do something.
I know my one buddy talked about doing mushrooms and like going swimming, and I was like, that sounds terrifying to me. Like that. Like I feel like being in that altered of a state and then swimming in, like, I think he was in the ocean. I was like, dude, I would lose it. Like
Yeah.
my imagination running rampant sober in the ocean is enough to make me not want to swim in the ocean for that long. Like, I don't.
Dude, I
digress.
I can't even smoke weed. Like, it's just, I can't, dude. But
I don't. No worries.
yeah.
So,
I'm not with the bench press.
yeah.
We went on the good. Anyways,
Pretty
so
fun tangent.
that was a fun tangent. I wish.
I like conspiracies. Conspiratorial stuff is fun.
Well, that was one of the things that, like, the idea for this podcast was going to be, like, just me having some people on.
Yeah.
And just doing conspiracies. Strictly that. And then I did that. The first one did pretty well, but then, like, I really enjoyed, like, doing this. And I was like, I'm feeling like it is. Yeah.
Well, I think if you what you created with, like, a one-on-one podcast is it can really take any direction.
Yeah.
And you have a very universal appeal depending who's on, like, almost like a chameleon, like, you know, a thing there. But no, I think it's awesome.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Now, when it comes to squatting.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of squatting, I actually, like, the meet that I'm going into in June. Originally, I wanted to do a bench-only meet because I actually came off a pretty good full power meet. I totaled 1965 at 198. I think when we did that podcast, I was done with that meet. Like, I'd already done it. I'm pretty sure because it was in December. Came off that, and I was like, I want to start getting closer to a 700 bench. Well, this meet opens up, the IPA Strength Spectacular, and it's York Barbell meet, and I've done those before. They're nothing really. They weren't anything crazy for a while, but now a new meet director got to take over. This guy Rob Farrell, really great meet director. Apparently, this is becoming like kind of the PA Pro Series that he's been running in Erie is coming down to York, and I'm like, well, now this is within striking distance from me, and there is a title belt and money on the line. So I was like, all right, well, I got to throw my hat in the ring. Look at the entry sheet; it's only full power. I'm like, well, shit, I don't have briefs yet, and my bench shirt's starting to give out. So I'd been waiting on briefs from Overkill. There were supply chain issues with that. Because of that, Rudy was like, you've been waiting for a long time. I appreciate your patience. I'll cut you a good deal on a bench shirt if you need one. I said, I actually do right now. He had a new material I wanted to test out. Got the bench shirt many, many weeks ago now. It was perfect. I touched the first night in it exactly like he said it was. Very good material. Squatting, on the other hand, I didn't get these briefs until like 2 weeks ago. And this meets, I think I'm 4 or 5 weeks out. So that's not really a good decision, by the way, is to like sign up for a meet before you have the gear. But here I am doing it again.
You gotta put your hat in the ring, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I kind of knew going into this meet, I was like, this is gonna be experimental. And I've kind of reached the conclusion that like I'm either gonna go to this meet and bomb on depth because I haven't figured out my gear combo yet on squats, or I'm gonna have like a great meet. Like, because my bench opener is higher than I benched last meet. My deadlift has been on fire. And my squat's been strong. It's just depth is very, very inconsistent. And it's new gear combo.
Could have a different...
slightly new style of squatting. I've been trying to dip at the bottom of my squat. And I think I've gotten these things to click, but it really just depends who's going to be sitting in those side judging chairs on meet day.
I was just going to say, it was like the last time with your beautiful squat depth you had.
I got away with a pretty high squat. I got a gift, But I will say this, like, definitely a high squat. I was surprised that it passed. Not mad that it did because I'm not retiring on that squat, and it wasn't an all-time world record. So it's not really hurting anybody. It's just I will squat more deeper later. Will that be this next meet? I don't know. But I knew when I signed up for this meet, I'm like, this is going to be experimental. Like, this is going to be a clusterfuck no matter what I do.
Yeah.
But I mean, if I can just get one squat in, I know like all my nerves will go away that day. Because my bench shirt is going great, and my deadlift's going really well too with some programming changes I made. But the squat is just it's gonna be a wild card. I'm either gonna have a great squat or I'm gonna have no squat. So
when you're in a meet, right? I've never been to a PL meet.
Yeah.
So you have 3 lifts, 3 disciplines, and you're doing quote unquote 9 reps.
9, technically, yeah.
Yeah. So what are you doing? So you're there pretty much all day, right?
Depends who's running the meet and how well it's run. I've heard tell of meets going from like 8 in the morning till 1 in the morning the next day. Most of the meets that I've been to some longer, some shorter. Multi-platform meets like the USAPL run way faster, but the consequence of that is if you're having more than one platform, it's usually a combo rack, and I obviously can't do that. Like monolift meets, just because of how expensive monolifts are and how big they are. You don't really see multi-platform stuff in the multiply side anymore. Um, so they usually, I mean, it's definitely an all-day affair. If you're competing full power, you're there all day. Now there are lots of bench-only meets or push-pull meets that run a lot faster. Like there's a meet every year in March, the Bristol Big Bench,
I
and
know that one.
RPS meet. I've done it a few times. Lifting starts at 10 in the morning. You're usually out of there by like 1 or 2.
Oh wow.
Which is awesome. That's like the best meet. If you're doing bench only, but if it's a full power meet, you just gotta kind of, and I mean even outside of the running of the meet, you got to factor in like you've got in a lot of cases 30 plus lifters. They've got to warm up for squat. They've got to take 3 squat attempts. They've got to warm up for bench, take 3 bench attempts. Warm up for deadlift, take 3 deadlift attempts. Like it's just a lot of things to do in one day.
Yeah.
Regardless of how well the meet is run. So
Sucks.
the best I've seen really is like 4 hours, and that was the WPO that was on ESPN. They ran an insanely tight ship, and if you ask lifters who did that meet, really was not conducive to their best performance for most of them. 'Cause
Really?
they're very rushed. People were like warming up for bench with their briefs still on. They're getting rushed to the platform. Really cool meet, and it was on ESPN, which was awesome. That was a really big deal for multiply powerlifting, but how tight of a ship they ran, it just is not really like what the rest of the sport is like. Like I would not say it's a fair comparison.
Yeah, because the reason I ask is because I know how it is. Like at my meets or my shows, I usually have 5 lifts, and usually we're out of there for 5, 6, and includes like podiums.
What time do you guys start? Like 8 in the morning?
Weigh-ins are usually around like 7:38.
Yeah.
We start lifting at 10.
Oh, you guys have 2-hour weigh-ins?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So what are you doing between those lifts?
So
let's say you
depends how
squat
many
it.
flights there are, right?
Okay,
So
yeah.
in powerlifting, usually, say you have a 30 lifter meet, there's really 2 routes the meet director can take. They can say we're gonna have 2 flights of 15 lifters. What that means is, flight 1 starts, lifter 1 takes his first squat, lifter 2 takes his first squat, all the way down to 15. Then lifter 1 takes his second squat, lifter 2 takes his second squat, all the way down to 15, and then the third attempt, and then the second flight does the same thing.
Yeah.
Usually, what ends up happening is the first flight gets to warm up early, and then while the first flight is squatting, the second flight's warming up for squat.
Mm-hmm.
Then when the second flight starts squatting, the first flight starts warming up for bench. So you can kind of stagger it.
Yeah.
I've seen meets do like more flights with less people. That makes them run a little faster between attempts. You have less time to rest between attempts. But usually, sorry, if you're between, like, if it's not your flight, you're usually warming up for the next lift.
Yeah.
Or you're snacking, or you're having like someone do, like I've had between flights having like soft tissue work done on me if I've like strained something or whatever. So sorry.
You all good? It's all those mushrooms you've been smoking.
No, it's all the pollen in the air.
Dude.
I'm getting annihilated.
You want water?
No, all right.
You sure? All right.
Yeah, tough time for people with allergies in the spring.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, there is and there isn't a lot of free time to stand around at meets.
Yeah.
Because like there's a lot of time to stand around between attempts, but you're always kind of like looking into doing something. Like you're about to do something. The only exception is like, say you're in the first flight, deadlifts finish, now you gotta wait for the second or third flight to get done before you get your trophy.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes sense. I guess I was just curious because I know they got like shows.
Yeah.
They'll rotate events, but you are waiting around for a decent amount of time. Like you're not always
really?
just go. Oh yeah. I mean like, Beer Muscles was ran beautifully, but when I was at like Delaware, like I could have taken a nap.
And it's, dude, I'll tell you, like the meet director makes a big difference.
Oh yeah.
Like, and I'm sure you can corroborate. Like I have had meets where my first multiply meet was a bench only meet in Jersey, and the judges were taking like half-hour breaks to eat between flights. They broke one of the monoliths in the warm-up room, so people were having to warm up on the platform, which meant a flight couldn't compete while everyone was warming. Like clusterfuck stuff, dude. And that happens when you have a lesser meet director. And then we were there from like 8 in the morning till 10 at night, and now I wasn't competing until 10 at night. I finished my shit by like 1 because I just benched.
You have to wait.
I had to wait till deadlifts were done to get my trophy and go home. Now I could have left, still went to open powerlifting, but first multiply meet, wanted the trophy, and I was hanging out with people there. I met a lot of people at that meet. It was a good time. I would do it again in a heartbeat, to be honest with you. I know no one else liked it because it took forever, but I had a great day because of the people that were there.
Yeah. But that makes a big difference.
Yeah,
that makes a big difference.
Because if you're sitting around a bunch of people who are miserable and they're not having good days, the energy's terrible, and you're like, dear God, get me out of here.
Yeah.
But, like, that was a day. That was the first time I met everyone from Death Wish Barbell. I met a lot of people from Atlantic City Barbell. I met a lot of people from a bunch of different gyms. Some people from CTX Barbell flew up from Florida. It was super cool. It was like a huge who's who of that year of multiply powerlifting.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It was fun. It was a really good introduction to lifting in gear. But on the same token, I could say if I was competing full power by deadlifts, I would have been smoked. I would have been done. It would have been such a long day. I would not have been able to really keep it together.
I don't know, man. That would have pissed me off. I would have been so mad because, like, I've been at wrestling tournaments where
we've both done wrestling tournaments that are ridiculous.
And I know sometimes, like, I would literally be taking a nap in the stands. And when I was at Delaware, I'm like, I just got done card deadlifting, and now I have to go wait to run this keg, and they're running every one at one event. So now it's like they'll do not so much flights, but it's like lightweight women's, then you do middleweight women's, and then that's all novice. Then you got to do the open, where it's like not like there's just novice and open, so you have the weight classes, but and then it's like once that's done, men. So me, who's fat, I have to wait for novice women's, open women's, novice men.
You are the last of the last.
The last.
That's I definitely have a similar fate. Like, especially if I'm doing like a bench only meet. Like, yeah, I can't hold a candle to the people at like Baddest Bencher in Texas where you have to bench $1,000 to get into that meet. But like at a local meet, first of all, usually I'm the only multiply lifter there.
Yeah.
Which means by default, my numbers are totally warped. So I'm always like the very end of the last flight, which means like I get there at 8 and I don't even touch a squat bar to warm up until like 9:30, 10. And I'm just like, what am I doing here? But you don't ever want to get there late because on the off chance that like you're not in the last flight or in the off chance that like you have to be there for rules or something or they DQ you, you're like, well, I got to be here to sit through this, you know? And you brought wrestling tournaments. You remember SEPAs?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember like you would be like out of the tournament, but you still had to show up?
Yep.
That was the worst.
Yep.
Especially like, funnily enough, if you gave a shit about wrestling and you were out of the tournament, it was so much harder to be there than if you didn't care at all. Like if you didn't make varsity and you still had to show up to the meet, like it was brutal to sit through all that and like just watch other people do what you want to be doing.
Yeah. And see, like that was the whole thing with wrestling is just like you're just there all day. Like I hated tournaments. Like I loved wrestling more than anything in the world. I hated tournaments because I would have all this anxiety all day to just wrestle total of like,
especially if you compete at like the end of the day and you're just sitting there simmering the whole time and you're like, you're not at home, so you're not eating the shit you're usually eating. You're like in a place that usually you don't really know where you're going. You're getting lost going to the bathroom, this, that, and the other. Like,
happened to me a quick time.
And and again, like, you know, there were kids who were there just to be there, like, because their parents made them do something to be athletic. But if you gave a shit about athletics, it was so much harder to be there and like not be on varsity or have been knocked out and like just be watching. Like you're supporting everyone, you're doing your best, but you're like, I just had a shit day and I got to be here for another 12 hours.
Yep,
what the fuck am I going to do with myself?
And the worst was like when I don't know if you remember this one from high school.
The worst is when you ran into the kid that just kicked your ass after you got knocked out of the tournament.
God.
You're like, what the fuck do I do to this?
Dude, it made me so mad because all the heavyweights were all just fat fucks, but we're all so nice. It's like I would like lose a match or like whatever, and I'd be like, I'm just sitting there. And he goes, "Hey man, good match." And I'm like, dude.
God damn it!
Shit made me so mad. Like I remember, a
lot of because I was just in the lighter weight class. A lot of those kids are just full of piss and vinegar, no matter what.
Yeah.
And like some of them are real weird. Like you didn't even want to talk to them. You're like, "Jeez, get me away from you, man." I just what a time.
You gotta listen. You gotta do one strongman meet.
I'm not saying I never.
You gotta
will.
do one.
I honestly,
I say you
no,
do a strongman. I'll do a
never
PL
will,
meet.
just to spite Jimmy because he was like, "You'll be doing strongman, just you wait." And I'm like, "No, I won't, old man." So now I can't. I already told him I never do one.
What if I pay for your next meet? I will pay for your fed and your meet.
No, listen, I will I will definitely like try strongman at some point. It's just not going to be soon. I have too many goals I want to tick off in powerlifting that like I want to stay on that path. And I'm sure you're the same way.
Yeah, I mean, and the only reason I would do a PL meet is for the sole purpose of being in the Mutant Mafia.
The Mutant Mafia.
The sole reason I would do it.
Yeah. I do think though it would be much easier for you to do a powerlifting meet because you kind of squat, bench, and deadlift regardless. Like I never do keg shit or like Atlas stones, and like you can argue till you're blue in the face about the potential carryover of those movements to powerlifting stuff. And I agree that being stronger all around and all those things build your upper back like nothing else. It's more just the risk to reward ratio.
And
right?
that's what I was gonna say. I'm like, dude,
and personally, access to it. Like I don't have it anymore.
Well, see, that's the thing is. People say like, "Oh yeah, power, you can just transfer right into." I'm like, dude, let me tell you, for squat, benching, and deadlifting my entire life, the transfer over was so hard.
It's skill acquisition, dude. It's all skill.
And it's like you would think, oh, I was picking up a sandbag. I'm like, yeah, you can pick up a like okay, pick up a 3 because like when I first did it, I'm like, all right, I'm like in the mid 6s right now. I'm like, I'm deadlifting this much, this 300 as sandbag. Should be nothing.
It's just a sandbag until you go to pick it up. Because I've tried to pick up some of those bigger sandbags at the gym, and it's not fucking easy. More or less, running with them. Are you like you gotta be out of your mind if you think that's easy. By the way, like I just if you're some macho powerlifter like I deadlift 800 and I don't need to do any fucking cardio. That strongman shit's easy. That's only 300 pounds. Like. You definitely need the ego check of going up and getting stapled to the floor by one or having it fall off your back. Yeah.
Oh.
It's not easy.
Oh, dude.
Guess what? If it was easy, everyone would be doing strongman. Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's just, you would do greater than me.
That would be fun. I would like to. I would do it someday, but probably when I'm older. Probably when I've like peaked in powerlifting and came back down. I'm just looking for something to do.
So when you're all done,
when I'm washed up. Yeah.
Oh God.
Well, I'm too. And again, like. I'm sure you're the same way. Like I'm very like tunnel vision to like this is what I want to do. Like these are the rankings I want to get. I want to break this record. I want to break that record. Like my girlfriend hates me because on my desk I hung on my wall like a list of 10 people whose totals I want to beat and whose benches I want to beat. And I look at that like every day. Mm-hmm. And I have it on the wall like in our living room because my desk is in our living room because we've 1-bedroom apartment, college life. But it used to say kill list, and she's like, can you not have that hanging up in our living room? And I was like, all right, fine. I just wrote beat them instead.
I would have kept that, dude. Kill list.
But I like, again, like it's obsessive. It's like, these are specific things I want to do. And I have this conversation with my buddy, Joe Jackson all the time. Like I always kind of tease him. I'm like, you should get in gear. It's a lot of fun. And you like hanging out with us because he's a raw lifter and he's a really good raw lifter. He competes at the American Pro. He does like all the biggest meets. And he's like, well, I want to squat a grand raw. And I'm like, I can't say anything because like I get it. Yeah. Like I had goals raw before I got into gear too, and I'm like, well, he's like, stay your course, like do it. And other people like they don't get it. They're like, oh, once you get into gear, you're not gonna give a shit about your raw numbers, and that might be true, but like, I would always rather steer someone into gear after they've checked that last box. Yeah. So they never have anything to look back on. Oh, dude, to
squat a grand raw.
He's close. I'm pretty sure he's over 8 in sleeves. Jesus. Yeah. He's a real good dude. His Instagram's Delco Jesus. You might know him from that.
Maybe.
But
I don't want to say yes because then I'm wrong.
Really good guy. He floats into our gym every now and then to train with us or fuck around. He's coached by another really awesome raw lifter, this guy John. And everyone always like kind of razzes him whenever he comes to our gym. It's like, why don't you put briefs on? We got stuff that would fit you. But I always I look at him, I get it. Like I see it.
No,
right?
I understand it. Yeah. So. I don't know, dude. There's just something about like, I don't know, like, I want people to just compete in one thing one time. It could be anything. Yeah. It could be golf.
I agree with you.
It could be badminton, because there's just something about like the butterflies you get on game day.
Yeah.
You're weighing in. You're not worried about anything, but like then it's like, okay, you have like A, B, and C are all going, and after C goes,
you're up. Yeah.
And eyes are on you, and not everyone gets that to understand what it's like.
I wholeheartedly agree with you, and I think it's really easy to pick people who have never had to push themselves in their life before. Yeah. I think it's really easy to see, and I think it's a huge not only a disadvantage, but it's really a disservice to yourself to never like see how you perform under pressure. And I'm not saying you had to play school sports. I'm not saying you had to play high school football, but like, dude, it could be a fucking League of Legends tournament. Like if you just like to have heat on you and to like and just to prove to yourself that you can do these things under pressure.
Exactly.
I think it's you learn so much about yourself.
You could not have said it any better.
Yeah.
Like literally couldn't have said it any better.
And the other thing is like, if you don't like it, you don't like it. You don't got to do it again.
Yeah.
But I do think everyone should like try it once. And I think like raw powerlifting especially is very accessible. If you can squat, bench, and deadlift, you can do a meet.
And most gym membership is like $25.
Yeah, you do not need to spend a lot of money to get to a gym with barbells at this point.
And the other thing too is people always go, "Oh, I need a coach. I need a coach." I'm like, dude, shut up. No, one, you don't need a coach, and two, you know how many fucking like jarheads like me who will just who will answer your DMs and go, "Don't do that,
dude.
I would do this. Hey, be careful."
First of all, not only will so many people answer your DMs, knowledgeable people like you, not jarheads, by the way, you're very knowledgeable, but. EliteFTS.com/education. You can find thousands of free articles. Like what more do you need? And like not
YouTube,
only does
YouTube University.
Oh my God, YouTube, Elite FTS, Westside, like Elite FTS especially if you're getting into powerlifting. Not only do they have so many free articles about every aspect of every strength sport, but their like team Elite FTS athletes used to write down their training logs. You could look at exactly what and at the time like. You know, when it was Matt Kroc and Chad Ikes and, you know, Wendler and all them, like, you could look at exactly what they were doing at that time. And you could look at their entire training cycles, and they would write notes like, I wasn't feeling too great today. Called an audible, didn't push it too heavy, went hard on accessories. Like, you can see exactly what goes through an entire training cycle.
No, I know. I didn't even know that. I didn't know that.
But it's such a powerful thing because so many people are like, okay, I can understand, like, maybe, like, the microcycle, but how does this fit into the bigger picture? Or I can understand the big picture, but like what exactly are like the actual means and methods I'm using day of? Like if you struggle to see that, and admittedly, like I did for a long time, I needed to see these things laid out.
Dude, I still struggle with it sometimes. I'm not gonna lie to you, I do.
Especially going like from linear to conjugate to like first here, like because Louis states it when you read Louis, and he's a great resource. It's like, oh, you know, we do our max effort work, and then it's 3 to 5 special exercises. And it's like, okay, what does it look like on paper? Like, what are these 3 to 5 special exercises? And then you go on the FTS and you see the training logs, and you're like, this is what that looks like. Yeah. This is a day of training, and then like you can piece together everything from there.
And what's cool too is I wish people would also just try things. Like you'll always hear like Bulgarian split squats. Yeah. Everyone hates them. No one likes doing them. So a lot of people will like avoid them. Or like goblet squats. Mm-hmm. It's like you throw a plate on the ground. I'm not gonna lie to you. I avoid lunges. I do.
We all have our things we avoid.
You don't have to do to like actually understand. I don't know if you remember this, but what was one that I was training and you were training, and you took the safety squat bar and you were just walking with like 315 just down the turf.
That's I miss having the space to do that. That's really brutal. If you want a very difficult way to build your core. Your trunk from every angle very fast. Get a safety squat bar, put a quarter or a plate on, and just take a walk. Yeah, I learned that Greg Panora told a story that when he got to West Side, his core was weak, and Louis put the safety squat bar on his back and made him walk 1.5 miles through the ghetto and then back to the gym with I think like 115 or 155 on his back. And he said he got back and he dropped it off and he threw up. It's a weird feeling because when you're walking, it feels like you're trying to breathe underwater. Yeah. And then you put the bar back in the rack, and you almost feel like your body inflate, like all the air comes back. It's very difficult, but it's very, very rewarding.
I don't know, man. That's just so wild to me.
What?
There's just the fact that like you just think, okay, he's working his core, he needs to build his legs, his quads, his hamstrings. What should I do? Oh. This 65-pound bar.
Take a hike.
Yeah. Like literally take a hike. Like Scram. To me, it blows my mind because like okay, so like let's say like there's sandbags, right?
Yeah.
Say I have a carry and it's for distance, right?
Great core builder too.
Yeah, I'm not.
The same way.
Say I have to just build up or I have to build my core. I might only grab the 260 and just walk with that for a while. Or like prime example, we have the Conan's wheel coming up.
Tough one.
You're gonna have you don't have one all the time.
Yeah.
So you have to go grab the yoke and just hold that. Like literally, I don't know if you can see like the bites. I don't think they went away.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Yeah, dude.
It's hard.
Take a hike.
The reason
Grab it.
the
Take
sandbag and the safety squat bar walk almost provide a similar feeling to me, having done both. Like, and it's because the camber of the safety squat bar puts the weights like 5 inches in front of your face.
Yeah.
And if you're holding a sandbag in front of you, the load is distributed in a similar pattern, and that's how you get all that mid back, and that's how you get all that core work in, because you're constantly fighting the balance, right?
Yeah.
Arguably, the yoke is very similar too, depending on how you load it. I still do think, and maybe this is because I don't have the skill to push the yoke or the sandbag hard enough. I think the safety squat bar walk is, if you're looking to build your core, the hardest of the three, in my opinion.
And I wouldn't disagree with you.
Yeah, but
I've never done the safety squat bar, so I can't say from personal experience.
Worth trying, but I've had people argue too, like the yoke's harder, and I'm like, the yoke's just a little. If you load the yoke evenly, it's a little more balanced. That's the only reason I would say it's easier. Yeah. It's harder in other ways. Like, I think it's harder to sustain it for as long because the apparatus is heavy by default. But I think like anything you do with the safety squat bar sucks. By the way, it's very very punishing. But walking with it is like hell.
If you ever get the chance, what do you think you can overhead press?
The bar, I fucking hate overhead pressing, dude.
I was gonna suggest like put the yoke like above your head and walk with it.
Oh,
like, do that's a lot of times. That's a lot of times I'll warm up my shoulders.
I'll have to make a trip back to Gym and Tan just to do that. Actually,
it is 215 empty though. Just so you know.
I probably, especially if I'm getting under a yoke to like, if I could get under it and like squat it up, I just like. Overhead press is one of those movements. Not only does it not agree with my shoulders, but it's not a sporting movement for me. And if I get my overhead press stronger, my bench doesn't go anywhere. So it's one of those like juices and worth the squeeze things for me.
That's what I didn't understand, dude.
What do you mean?
It blew my. So remember that story I was telling you about with Zach? It's like he switched my bench up all this time, and it's dropping like to where like I was embarrassed failing 405.
Yeah.
And my overhead press was skyrocketing.
Your triceps are getting stronger.
Maybe
you learn to use them.
Yeah. Well, I felt like an absolute idiot because I'm like, dude, I did 365 for I think it was like 3 or 4, if I believe.
Yeah.
And he's like, what? And I'm like, dude, why is my bench going up? Why are my shoulders stronger? He goes, because you're not using them. I'm like, what do you mean? And I'm like, and then I was like, so when you're here and you're benching, it's like, what are you not using? And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're laying off of them. You're letting them heal. And he's like,
there was a story when Matt Wenning took a trip to West Side. And I'm not a huge Matt Wenning fan, but like the story stuck with me because it's exactly what you're doing right now. Like when he went to West Side and I think he was benching over 500 as like a teenager raw, but he was benching with his chest, right? Which is, if you really know anything about raw bench, it's really not what you want to be doing. That's not the most efficient way to do it. So the first day he goes in there, he thinks he's like, I'm pretty impressive. I'm in college, I'm benching 500 raw. George Halbert walks up to him and he grabs him right behind the elbow and he just goes, your triceps are shit. And he walks away. And later on, Matt went back and he asked him about it, and George started showing him all these different tricep exercises, and he's like, this is how you need to be benching, you need to be tucking more, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And Matt was like, for almost a year, my bench went down raw, but I trusted George Halbert because he benched more than me. And I broke through the plateaus that I was having by using the actual right prime movers. Yeah. And I think that's exactly what you're going through. Like, you probably weren't using your triceps enough, but now that you're learning to use them and that reverse grip bench is helping you learn to do that, you took 2 steps backwards, but you're going to take 3 steps forward.
That's what Zach said.
What I mean?
That's what Zach said. Because I'm not going to lie to you, dude.
That's one of the hardest things you can do.
Dude, it was an ego check because, like, the one day he puts on for like 405. It was like one of the first that was there. I was just, all right, cool. We're having fun, like, right? And then he goes, "You're bro benching." And I was like, "Fuck,
you're using your pecs."
Yeah, and he's like, "You strong pecs, you have strong shoulders, Doug." And you're lucky that your triceps are there for you. And he switches it, and then I come closer, so it's more triceps. Now 365 is feeling heavy.
Yeah.
And then we get the reverse grip, and I told you how that went.
Yeah. Taking a few steps backward to take more forward is really hard, and I had to go through it recently. Going into my last meet that I did, that 1965 at 198, my squat, the last full power meet I did before that was well over a year before that meet, and I bombed out on squats. and I just kept kind of like spinning my wheels in gear until I
Mm.
eventually took the gear off, and I had to rebuild my squat from square one raw. And I was doing it in like
Oh,
I was doing it in manners like even before I got into gear, I always squatted pretty wide raw.
yeah.
And we were like, all right, well, we're gonna push your feet in real close, and you're gonna start squatting close stance raw. Like you're gonna get strong in places that you've never been strong before. And I did that, progressively brought my stance back out wider, and that was like the thing that kind of brought my squat back from the grave. Was like then I went and I squatted 770 at that meet, and but it's if you don't have the mental fortitude to suck it up and be like, I'm gonna
I agree.
put up shit numbers for however long, and guess what, like you're probably gonna have to do it again at some point too, and that's it's even harder to go back the second time.
Well, that's how it was with my deadlift. Andrew
Yeah.
had me do 135 over like 100 and like some odd times, and because I have short arms,
I do
so
too,
so
yeah.
so the problem was is when I'm coming down and I'm coming down and I'm like hunched over, he goes rolling back.
Yep.
Now I have to get down more, so my arms
Yeah.
cannot touch the bar. So I'm in good position, but I can't touch the bar. I'm like, dude, it was embarrassing. Like I'm here, right, and I'm like here. I'm
You got
touching the bar.
nowhere else to go.
And now, yeah, it was
Yeah.
so bad. And he goes, get lower. And then eventually I was like, okay. He goes, deadlift. I'm like, oh fuck,
Dude, it's
Yeah,
tough, and
it's tough.
Many times you have to go back and forth. Because I remember when I was first rebuilding my squat, I took all the gear off. I did a few weeks raw, and then like I put the briefs back on, and I was still having some of the same problems. And it's like, all right, well, you're gonna train raw for another 6 weeks. I'm like,
Yeah.
fuck, and it sucked. And but you always got to kind of see the big picture. Like don't miss the forest for the trees. Like you got to make sure you're doing the right thing to set yourself up for long.
Say that again.
Don't miss the forest for the trees. You never heard that one?
God.
That harkens back to
Told me that
Mrs.
was his-
Barnett in my AP English class in
Oh
like 10th
my
grade.
God.
That was the first time I heard that. And
Wow.
that's a good one.
Don't miss the forest when you're aiming for the trees, or is
Don't
it?
miss the forest
forest-
for the trees. Like don't get hung up in the little things.
Yeah,
and
no,
miss
I-
the big picture.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Like
Well, that's the thing we used to say in wrestling. It's like if you're going for if you're going for a leg, you want to aim for the like I forget now. Size I was going to listen to this. And get
I
pissed at
think
me.
I know what you're talking
You know what I'm
about though.
But
Yeah.
that's a good quote.
I think
Oh my God.
now more than ever, that is very difficult.
Yeah.
Especially
Without a doubt.
especially with powerlifting, because right now powerlifting's a trend. Everyone likes to post their like big lifts, and nobody wants to take the step back and be like, I'm gonna have to squat 315 for 6 months to figure some little technical things out
Ego.
before I start pushing back. Yeah, because you want to post big lifts. You want to get it feels good to get all the likes, and I'm not gonna act above anybody. Like it's fun.
Yeah, no,
and-
I'm right there with you.
Frankly, I actually love when my friends post their lifts because I like to keep in touch with my friends' training.
Yeah.
And that's the same reason that I post my training is because instead of telling all of my friends individually, like I see them all like it, and then vice versa, like people that like I don't get to lift with all the time. Some of my buddies down in Tennessee, some of my buddies out in the Midwest, like I get to see them in my feed, and I'm like, hell yeah, he's hitting a squat PR, he's hitting a bench PR.
Yeah.
Oh, he's taking some steps back right now. Like I'm gonna check in on him. Like I love that, but it's very easy to get caught up in like I have to post a PR, I have to hit a PR because like I need to post it. Like you can't let Instagram scratch that itch for you because it is a long game.
And then when something happens, you're screwed.
Yeah, exactly. Because
But
it is a very fast.
I
road
hate to
injury.
stop you, but we
No,
are
I
at no,
see.
we're good. We're at like an hour and 13. But I am very sad Kyle wasn't here, but I'm
Me
very
too.
glad that you still came because I was like, hey, listen, I like everything. You still want to do this? We could do it. I'd love
Yeah.
to at least get one in.
Well, I felt bad because I was like, I know Matt's planning on shooting an episode tonight. I'm sure this is something he was trying to have in his chamber, and like I'd already planned to come here. Like this
No,
was
you're
fine
cool.
For me, so I was more than happy. I was excited that you still wanted to have me.
Yeah, no, because
because,
I was
so
I was planning on reaching out to you soon because I know like Russ from the gym and a couple other people were gonna come on.
Yeah.
But when Kyle said something to me about you or vice versa, I forget what it was. I think maybe you commented on like one of the posts, and I was like,
Yeah.
I'm setting this up. This is happening now. I don't care who
think
I have.
shot
To,
you
I don't
a
know.
text after I listened to Kyle's episode.
Yes,
I was
yes,
like,
that's what it
dude,
was.
we should have
Yeah.
both of us on. Like that would be such a fun like a clash, especially because he was such an instrumental part of my upbringing in powerlifting.
Yeah.
And when I heard him talking about powerlifting culture, I'm like, these are conversations that he would love to have
Yeah.
with me too, and that you would love to hear
Yeah.
both of us talk about.
But yeah,
but
man.
for a later date, Kyle will get his shit sorted, and we'll be back.
Oh, man, that was great, dude. All right, guys, we'll see you next week. And it's still RPE FML.
Yes,
Can I tell you? Wait, real quick. I know we were ending it, but so did I tell you that I just of recent figured out what
you just put that together?
Yeah. So I forget what it was. I think it was I was a Cody. I was like squatting. I was like, he was like, yo, what was that RPE? I was like 6'10". It sucked. Yeah. And he goes, what was the RPE? I'm like, I don't use that shit.
Funny part is I don't use RPE either.
Yeah.
I use percents, if anything.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah.
And he's like, what's the RPE? And I'm like, dude, I don't know, man, but fuck my. Oh,
it clicked.
And oh my God, he didn't understand it. I'm like, RPE FML. He's like, what? I'm like, RPE FML.
There used to be, I got that because there used to be a meme page called RPE Max. I was like, oh, that's funny. Like, and God. I used to always say to my buddies, because like when I started training conjugate and nobody else followed me into it, they were like, oh, I looked heavy. I'm like, yeah, RPE, fuck my life, man. Like that was, and I was like, I bet you that Instagram handle is already taken, and it wasn't. So I just took the account. Like that was it. Like I saved it. I was like, if I ever want to make a lifting account, like this will be it.
That's great.
Thinking of I was future proofing that name.
Well,
I didn't take it early.
Mr. RPE FML, it's been fun.
You too, buddy.
God.